4 proven ways to help your kids handle disappointment. Every now and then, our children have to cope with the vicissitudes of life and handle everything from disappointment to anxiety. Find out how to help kids cope with the unpredictable stressors that adults also have to deal with. A must-watch for all parents, mentors, and youth coaches. Welcome back, folks, to another edition of Sweetie Kiwi. I hope you are doing fantastic today. I'm doing marvelous. If you were to ask me, the sun is out there. It's beautiful. If you are doing as great as I am, go grab a cup of coffee or tea or vodka and let's roll. Today, I want to talk to you about 4 proven ways to help your kids handle disappointment. But before I get into the nitty-gritty, we want to thank all our viewers and listeners from the United States and Canada, but also from other parts of the world. Specifically in Japan, China. We also have some viewers in Nigeria, in Kenya, in Brazil, and in Poland. Thank you very much. We really appreciate it. 4 proven ways to help your kids handle disappointment. Number 1, emphasize what's going right. In the midst of disappointment, it's very easy to forget about the good sides of life. It can all be too easy to focus on what's going on wrong. And there's plenty of it, right? But it's very also helpful to point out to your kids what's working, especially if it's behavior that your child is exhibiting. So if your child is doing something right, it has had a good grade, or is participating in teamwork, has done some sports activity, all the good things that are going on in his or her life, you want to point that out, right? It's very important. You want to reinforce the things that your child has been doing very well. Say something like, I know you've been frustrated. I want you to know how proud I am that you're stepping up and helping out. I really appreciate that I asked you to do this and you did it with no complaints. The bottom line here is that everybody wants to hear positive words every now and then, even children, right? Especially in the midst of a disappointment, of a negative, I would say, an unfavorable circumstance. That child wants to hear that you, the parents or guardian, the authority, the figure authority, the thought leader that he or she looks up to, appreciates his or her behavior. So it's very important to sort of manage this situation. So you want to emphasize what's going right now. While you're doing that, please tell the truth. Even if it's a harsh truth, you want to really be honest with your children. You want to help the children manage their stress by reinforcing the good side of life. Another thing that I want you to also talked about here is that you can actually you can recollect positive experiences that you had with the child in the past that can make them feel like, oh, okay, you know what, this whole situation is really not that bad. It's true, I'm disappointed, yes, I'm sad, I'm frustrated, but it's probably 20% or 30% of my life, because the other 70% or 80% is just pure positivity. What I'm trying to say here is that you want to contextualize the disappointment. You want to contextualize the stress, the frustration, and put it into the right perspective so he or she can see that, hey, listen, the world is not coming to an end because of this thing. All right, so number 1, emphasize what's going right. Number 2, be honest about how hard this is. The thing here is that if your child is disappointed, you want to empathize. You want to show her or him that you understand how hard this is. That even you have gone through something similar, or you can imagine how hard it is. Especially right now, we are in a situation. We are in an era where there's a lot of stuff going on right now in the world. We have a global pandemic. We have a recession. We have sometimes we are faced with threats of terrorism. A lot of stuff is going on, and some children might be disappointed because, for instance, if we are in the coronavirus period right now, people can't go out. If your child was looking forward to a summer camp or looking forward to some kind of activity and that activity has been canceled, you have to be able to explain this situation to the child in an age appropriate manner. What I'm trying to say here is that you can say something like, listen, I understand how hard this thing is because I've been through it, or because I'm also going through it myself. right? It makes sense to feel disappointed. It makes sense to feel sad. It makes sense to feel frustrated. However, I want you to understand that you're not alone in this. Everybody is with you on this. You're not the only person facing this challenge. I guess what I'm trying to say here is that when you contextualize and say something like the child is not the only person facing the vicissitude of life, that gives some kind of relief. I'm not saying this will eliminate overnight or obliterate right away the pain or disappointment, but just the feeling of collectivity. The fact that he or she is thinking, oh, I'm not in this stuff by myself. I'm not alone here. There's no element of solitude. I'm within a group, and everybody's feeling the same pain I'm feeling. Just that sentiment of group, of collectivism, will lower the pain. All right. So the thing here is that you have to know how to say it again in a very age appropriate manner, so that the child can feel the disappointment at a lower level than he or she would have felt it if you had not intervened, if you had not talked about it. Okay, so emphasize what's going right and be honest about how hard the whole situation is. I'll be right back right after this. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back, folks, to another edition of Sweetie Kiwi. We are still talking about today. We are talking about 4 proven ways to help your kids handle disappointment. If you just love the clarity and quality of the content right now, please go ahead and smash that like button. I want you to comment below and please share this content with everybody else. We want all parents and guardians out there, and youth coaches and mentors, people who deal with youth in an everyday manner. Please share this content with them so they know how to help kids handle disappointment. And also, please subscribe to this channel if you love the clarity of quality of the content, and turn on the notification bell, because we release shows every single day. Now, the shows do not cover parenting and child rearing all the time, but we do have a variety of shows and topics that I'm sure you will find interesting. Number 3, give them space to feel how they feel. What I'm trying to say here is that when your child is disappointed, tell them you can imagine how they feel. Now, don't lie. Don't say you know how they feel. No, you can imagine. Unless you have experienced the same exact thing, never say you know how they feel. If you have experienced the same exact thing, then you can say, yes, I really know how you feel. Then you want to recount what happened to you. You want to explain to the child how you handled it. You want to really sort of bring him or her back into your world at that particular moment when you had the same situation. What I'm trying to say here is that when you have a situation where you can share, compare and contrast souvenirs, experiences, remembrances, recollections, it makes the whole conversation much more insightful. All right. Now, don't expect your kids to immediately get over their sadness, anger, or other feelings over the loss. Right? Don't just rush in with the bright side. Don't say, well, everything will be okay, kumbaya, peace and love, good night, I'll talk to you tomorrow. No. You want to give the child permission to feel and express their emotions. Right? You can say something like, I hear that this is really hard for you. Right? I know graduation or prom is a big deal, and I know how much you are looking forward to it. Right? Or you can say something like, I do understand how frustrating the whole wait and see is for you. By saying that, you are empathizing with the child. You are sympathizing with the child. You're showing him or her that you understand. Remember earlier I said, never say that you know unless you know. You can use words like imagine or understand, right? So by saying that, and if you say this in a very authentic way, the child disappointment will be lowered. It's all about feeling understood. Sometimes we humans, including children, just want to be understood. The pain, the frustration, the storm in our heads come from the fact that we feel that people don't understand us. right? It's all about expectations. It is an expectations game at the end, right? Disappointment comes because the expectations were too high. If they were low, there would never be any disappointments, right? So you want to give them space to feel how they feel. Number 4, model good behavior. What does that mean? This means that if you want your child to get over the disappointment very quickly or properly or methodically, you want to show how to do it. How do you handle disappointment yourself? How do you handle frustration yourself? Do you have an anxiety disorder? How do you handle stressors that life throws your way? How do you cope with solitude or the vicissitudes of life? Don't tell, show. You want to model good behavior. You want the child to mimic your behavior. And a lot of children, if not all children, learn by seeing, learn by living. They copy, they mimic, they ape what their guardians, their mentors, their youth coaches, their parents are doing. So you might be saying everything. You might be saying something positive, extremely uplifting, extremely refreshingly uplifting, refreshingly enriching, if you will. But if you don't practice what you preach, if there is a disconnect, if there is a big gap between what you preach versus what you do, the child wouldn't follow. So you want to model good behavior, right? Talk to the child, and you want to give her or him examples of how you handled things in the past. You want to see things that he or she can go back to and say, hey, yeah, that's true. Yeah, when that thing's happened 4 years ago, mommy was just chilling. She was just relaxing. Or daddy was just handling this in this particular way. So the child can go back and recollect how you yourself, you the parent, handled things in the past. All right, so model good behavior. You can talk about how you are experiencing your own disappointments also. Instead of talking about the past, you can talk about the present. You can say, right now, things are not going as great for myself too. For example, that activity, that vacation that you're looking forward to that you felt disappointed, I feel disappointed as well. You're not the only person here, right? So the whole idea here is to show empathy, to show sympathy, to say, listen, this thing is affecting all of us. It's not just only you. I will be right back right after this. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back, folks, to another edition of Sweetie Kiwi. I'm still here having a conversation around 4 proven ways to help your kids handle disappointment. I've given you the 4 proven ways. Now, a word of caution though. Please do not equate your experience with what the child is going through, because things are different. Your child is not you. Your child is not you when you were his or her age. And here is why. There are 5 fundamental things that make the whole experience, your child's experience, different than yours. The time. Times are different. When you were a child 30 years ago or 40 years ago, things were different. So the time is different. The location, where you were versus where he or she is currently, is not the same thing. So the feelings, if we place ourselves in the time and time and place locations, now time and place dimensions, right? The bidimensional concept, time and place. Your child is experiencing something, the disappointment that he or she is experiencing right now in this particular location is not the same thing you experienced several years ago or decades ago in another location. Your child has a different personality, and that's the third element. Your child has a different personality. This is another human being, a different human being. Yes, he or she is your blood, right? Carries your genes, true. But the personality, the emotional, the psychological construct, the physical construct that builds up this man, this young man or young woman, this metabolic processes are totally different. The circumstances that you have gone through are different from your child's circumstances. So the disappointment is totally different. Now, there's another thing that's also important. The peer feedback loop. What psychologists call peer feedback loop. Some people call it peer pressure or peer rewards, right? So and this is an important exogenous factor here. The other 4 factors that I spoke about earlier are endogenous. They are internal. This factor is exogenous. It is external. It's coming from the outside. right? So your child is undergoing the pressure or reward of his or her peers. So that's very important. So this is why you cannot compare your own experience to his or hers. Now, don't ever compare, and this is another word of caution here, don't compare your children to their siblings. Every child is different. If your child is disappointed about something or over something, don't say, oh, well, your brother has handled this very nicely, or your brother has handled this very poorly, so I expect you to do better. No, every child is different. Every child is beautifully unique, right? The uniqueness of our experiences and personalities is what makes the whole world beautiful and gorgeous, right? So don't compare your children to their siblings. Don't compare them to other children. I'm talking about other children who are not your children, right? So the idea again here is to reinforce the notion of uniqueness, the notion of human uniqueness. And another thing you want to do is when you talk to your child and try to help him or her handle disappointment, please don't bring someone's behavior into the equation. If you have to, do it in a clear, non-judgmental, and non-comparative way. What I'm trying to say is that psychologists generally will advise people to refrain from comparing children to other children, or from bringing other children's experiences when handling the case of a specific child. Now, if you have to do it, you can do it in a very clear and non-judgmental way. You're not comparing. For example, you can see something like if your child is disappointed over the cancellation of a family trip, you can see stuff like, I really understand your frustration. I'm frustrated myself. I'm disappointed myself. However, I think that you are, 3 weeks from now or 4 weeks from now, you will be okay because we have another wonderful event coming. And the children of our neighbors also are going to be there. They seem to be not so disappointed about the situation right now, but I'm sure in 4 weeks, when they see us as a family, they will be very happy. They'll be very pleased. The whole point here is to paint a rosy picture, is to paint something nice in the future, to give the child the ability to visualize something positive, something uplifted, something enriching, as opposed to dwelling on the disappointment that is currently here. All right. So this is it, folks. This is the end. I want to wrap up today's conversation. Here is a recap. 4 proven ways to help your kids handle disappointment. Number 1, emphasize what's going right. 2, be honest about how hard this is. 3, give them space to feel how they feel. 4, model good behavior. And I also gave you a word of caution, so you can you learn not to equate your experience with what your child is going through at the current moment, and you don't compare your children to their siblings or to other children. All right, I will see you next time, but until then, remember, stay marvelous.